Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Inflow's Google Analytics for Office Hours. My name is Kate Miller. I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Inflow. I'm going to be the MC for this event. So a few housekeeping items for those who have not been here before or are watching this recording later. This is being recorded. So we'll be sending out a link to everybody who registered for this event, as well as posting it on our YouTube channel later on. If you are here live, we're glad to have you. You can go ahead and drop any questions you have along the way into the chat box, any comments, any kind of suggestions, anything you really want to say. I'm here to answer them. Julia is here to answer them as always. So we'd love to have some participation and help you really get your reporting and your data set for Q4, which is rapidly approaching, just a few days away. So on that note, today's office hours is really all about prepping your data and your reporting for Q4 and the holiday shopping season, making sure you've got everything set so that you can gather that data that you need to make your year-end reporting and then year-over-year reporting when Q4 rolls around in 2025 as comprehensive as possible. So as always, we have Julia here who's going to walk us through some of her tips and tricks, as well as some reports that you should consider saving in your account, and well as some other things that she has to suggest to make Q4 reporting as beneficial as possible for your team. So all of that said, I think we're going to go ahead and kick it off. So I'm passing it over to Julia.
Thank you, Kate. I'll go ahead and share my screen and we will get started. And looks like my screen is being shared. Can you see it, Kate?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. So first thing we're going to talk about today is really making sure your GA4 is set up for collecting all this data throughout the holiday season. Now, GA4 is not retroactive. So if your GA4 is not already collecting data, you need to set that up immediately, as quickly as possible. Call your developer today. Let's get it going, because GA4 is not going to be retroactive. And we have found that there can be a little bit more development work to get GA4 rolling than there was with UA. Now, I know most of you really have your GA4 set up by now, but maybe it needs a little tweak. So we're not going to go through the full setup process today, but there are a couple of things that I do want to call out. And one of them is these enhanced measurement events. Now, GA4 collects some of this information as long as you have enhanced measurement turned on within your GA4, which I believe it still is turned on by default. And some of these events are things that you used to have to set up in UA. This is going to be things like your page views, your scrolls, your outbound clicks, people viewing search results, video engagement metrics. Now, these metrics are great, and they're a place to start. They are collected automatically, so there can be some little issues with them. In particular, one that we really find is that video engagement, particularly video start. If there's a video perhaps playing in the background of a landing page, sometimes this will count someone watching that video, starting that video, making it all the way through the video when they didn't actually click play. It's just auto playing in the background. Perhaps it's like a moving clip. So this is something to be aware about. However, as I scroll through here, you might notice that while there's some form interactions, there's no purchase event. There is no e-commerce event. In GA4, you need to set up your e-commerce events. Now, it's close enough to the holidays where it might not be possible for you to do that. And I'm also sure most of you have already got your e-commerce events set up, which is wonderful. Biggest thing, if you have not gotten this set up already, though, is to try to get purchase going. Google actually has really good resources for setting up these events. Doesn't necessarily tell you which events to set up. That's something I'd really recommend reaching out to us for. Also doesn't necessarily have great resources for helping you figure out if it's set up correctly. Again, that's something I would recommend reaching out on. But what it does do well is tell you what the code looks like for setting these events up. So this is purchase. And if you only get one event set up now between now and holiday, please make it purchase. Let's track what people are buying on your site in the holiday shopping season. If you already have this, you can get into some other ones on this e-commerce list, but purchase is by far the most important. And I'm sure most of you already have purchase, but we actually see a fair amount of issues with purchase event. If you take a look through some of these parameters, you might notice that actually only very few of them are required. So we have actually seen instances where there will just be like a transaction ID and like item ID in a purchase. What does that tell us? Great, SKU number ABCDEFG was purchased. How much? What is that? What's the name of that product? Is there any other information that should be included? Like, what's the item brand? What's that item category? What's the value of that item? Was there a coupon? That just setting that basic up doesn't tell us anything. And that might be something that you need to take a look at. Now, if you're having questions about if your GA4 is set up well enough, really encourage you to reach out to either your Inflow contact or reach out for a GA4 audit, because this can be a really tricky area. And purchase is the most important event we're looking at when we're talking about this holiday shopping season. If you don't know what people are buying, where they're spending their money, how much things are costing, it's really hard to track the impact of your marketing campaigns. However, I know a lot of you already have your GA4 set up. You're feeling good about your data. So in that case, let's start talking about getting your reporting for Q4 and holiday shopping. A couple different reports in GA4. Well, for robust reporting, really recommend being pretty familiar with GA4 or having perhaps a Looker Studio report built out for you that just tells you what exactly you need to know. There are a couple of really good reports in GA4 that are great places to start when you're looking through this data. Now, I'm over here in the sidebar, so I go home and here in reports, and right now I am going to monetization overview. Monetization overview is what it sounds like. It is your snapshot of how different things, monetization, are working on your website. So in here we have our total revenue, our purchase revenue, total purchasers, first-time purchasers, average purchase revenue per active user, items purchased in a couple different ways, and so on. This is your report where if you just need like a 1-second overview, this is a great way to do it. However, I know a lot of us need more information than just that. Another report that I really recommend is your e-commerce purchases report. So this report is looking at, in this case, right now it's looking at items viewed by item name over time. I can change the sort to be by items purchased. If you don't have your view item and your add to cart event sign up, these will just be 0, and that's okay. You can modify this report to just take those events out so you're not seeing those 0 numbers in the future. Would love to get those set up in the future, but right now we are approaching crunch time for the holidays, and so that might be a 2025 goal. So right now I have these items purchased, also have this revenue. If you are seeing really funky things in here, like your cloud stickers, you sold 1,000 of them and you only made $2, or you made $5 million, that can be a sign that there's something wrong with your purchase event that needs to be troubleshooted. We do occasionally see things like that. Seeing some really, really wild items in there. So just really something to keep in mind. These numbers should be logical. And what logical is going to depend on you and your business, but they should make somewhat sense. Another really important thing to notice about this report is this is what items were purchased. This is not what people landing page, what people searched for. You might, for example, be wondering how many people came in through your socks category and then ultimately purchased something else. This report will not tell you that. This report is only going to tell you how many people purchased those socks, not how they got there, not what category it was. Within this report, depending on how well filled out your categories are, you might also have other things. So for example, item ID, you might have that set up. We have that here. Item categories, again, not set up for purchase, but they are set up for added to cart and viewed, and so on. These can be really, really great for looking at different trends throughout your website. You also can create different versions of this report depending on different channels. So perhaps you're interested in knowing the best-selling products for organic, for paid social. These are different versions of that report you can create and save in this sidebar right here, so you have those for easy access across all users who are looking at this report. Another really great report to check out is your purchase journey report. This report is a funnel, and like it says, it is really looking at someone's purchase. Now, if you don't have all of these e-commerce events set up of view product or view item, add to cart, begin checkout, and purchase, this report is not going to work for you. And that's, again, just you need the GA4 events set up. And maybe you have a site where those events don't work, and that's okay. In that case, I would just remove this report from your sidebar to make your reporting nice and clean. This report can really just give you an idea of how people are moving through their purchase journey. By default, it's set to device category, but you can change this to country, region, city, language, browser, etc. Again, are there any glaring issues in here that you need to address immediately before we get into the holiday season? Is this something that you can really be looking into to see if there's any changes that you should anticipate in the upcoming season? This may not be a report that you check constantly, but it's a really good one to keep your eye on. Checkout journey is very similar as well. Again, you need these events set up, begin checkout, add shipping info, add payment info, and purchase in order for this report to be filled out. We, again, have these similar issues, dimensions here. Again, this can be a really great one to look at. You might know that significantly fewer people purchase on mobile, but it can still give you an idea of if the drop down between add payment and purchase is significantly different on mobile. Is there a technical issue with your website that you need to get fixed ASAP? Again, really good report to start taking a look at and keeping your eye on. These next reports are ones that you may not use as frequently. So promotion, again, is going to depend on if you have the promotion event set up, and that's a lower priority for many businesses. So not going to get too much into this one. However, again, this is just looking at what was in that promotion. If people clicked on it, if people clicked through to it, and eventually if they purchased it. If you're running a big Black Friday promotion, this might be an event that you use and a report that's really great for you to look at. There's also this new transactions report, and this is really looking at transaction ID. Now, again, you may not necessarily be looking at this one a lot, but one thing that I find this report super helpful for is if I'm seeing multiple e-commerce purchases with the same transaction ID, or if I'm seeing that they're purchasing a weird number of items, this can be a really good sign for me if things don't look right in this report that, hey, we need to dig into this site more. Maybe there's an issue that we can quickly troubleshoot and get this collecting data better. Again, data in GA4 is not retroactive, so the sooner we spot these issues and the sooner we get them fixed, the better. Another report that you're probably going to want to use after Black Friday is going to be your acquisition reports. These are reports that are looking at how people are getting to your site. So in this case, I'm in traffic acquisition, which is looking at this by session. And these are going to be what I'm really looking for how people are getting to the site. Here I have a lot of my metrics, sessions, engaged sessions, my engagement rate, so on. Also have that total revenue broken down into channels. So say after Black Friday, I am looking for how my organic search and my paid search did. This is a new feature to GA4 called plot rows. I'm super excited about this. But essentially, you can plot up to 5. So here I'm going to click organic search, and I'm going to hit paid search, and then I'm going to hit plot rows. And this chart is going to update to reflect my selections. So this, again, can be really great around a major holiday. Looking at what channels had a spike in traffic. What channels did I maybe not have the traffic I expected? What was the impact of there? Can I get a nice screenshot of this to show a manager? And all of these are really great uses for this report. This report is also, again, where you can really take a look before coming into the holiday season now to get an idea of what's your baseline at right now. Or better yet, what does GA4 say your baseline is, since GA4 will often be a little bit lower than your internal analytics. What's going on now? What are our best-selling channels right now? How can perhaps extra budget we're going to put into paid play over the upcoming holiday season? So again, another report that is probably one of my most frequently looked at reports. Another really great modification to make to this report that unfortunately I cannot make because we're in the demo account and there's so many restrictions on what I can show you right now. But something that's really, really great to do with this report is to create different versions of this and then by source and medium. So we often recommend having a version of this for different of your channels, such as your organic search, and then having it sorted by source and medium. So you can look at what is your Google organic doing versus your any of the others. Same thing with page search, cross network, paid social. Having those and looking at those by source medium can really help you dig into your traffic. And that is something that you can get set up now. So you already have it off your plate when the busy holiday season hits. Again, if this is something you need help with, let us know and we can certainly help with that. Another area that we often, that can be really great to work on right now is if you need to make any changes to your custom definitions or perhaps your key events. Now, again, not retroactive. So if there's something you need to be measuring, set up that event now. And perhaps it's something that you want to measure, or it wanted to be a key event, you're already measuring it. You have these nice little sliders that I can't do anything with because we're in the demo account, but they're right here. I'm in admin, property settings, key events. And these are how you can turn a key event into a key event. Again, this is not retroactive. This will only be moving forward. Really recommend that you think carefully before you make any changes here. Another change here that you can make, but usually you shouldn't make, is changing the counting method. So by default, and this is the difference from UA, by default, GA4 will count this as a key event every single time it happens within the session. So in this case, view item is marked as a key event. So every single time within one session that a user views an item or triggers that view item event, this GA4 property is going to count that as a key event. This was going to be different than UA. In UA, goals would only, conversions goals would only fire once per session. So that might be a reason why you're seeing these much higher in GA4 than you're used to. If there is something that really should only be at most once a session, you can change the counting method. However, there's very, very few times that we actually recommend doing that. So again, that can be a really great thing to discuss with your marketing teams before you make any changes there. Another item to keep an eye on is going to be your custom definitions, which again, I'm admin, property settings, custom definitions. These are where you register any custom dimensions or custom metrics. Perhaps you have a custom event set up. Perhaps you added a custom parameter to your purchase event to measure something that's really important to you. In order to use that data within GA4, you actually have to register it with here. And in an account where you're allowed to do that, which I'm not because this is the demo account, you'll see a button about right here or right here. And you can click on that, go through the process of adding it. Adding one usually only takes about 30 seconds, maybe a minute. You do need to make sure it is exact of how it is in the parameter within your data layer. And again, not retroactive. So even if you've had that event set up collecting data for a year, if that custom dimension hasn't been registered, you're not going to be able to use it in your reports, which is just a bummer. But that's really how GA4 works. So again, if that's something you're going to need for the holiday season, register that today, right now. That's something that you will need to do as soon as you possible. Finally, and again, Looker Studio can be a really great resource for reporting. Now, obviously, you can contact us to have you build reports. If you're a current client, you may already have Looker Studio dashboards from us. But within your business as well, Looker Studio can be a resource as well. And I know we've had a couple of questions on some Looker Studio. And Looker Studio is a really complex topic, so we're not going to be able to go through all of that right now. But I know one area that people have a lot of questions is just really where do you start if you want to build something. And so really in here, you can either go up to create, or I'm going to hit create new report. And then in this case, I want to connect to Google Analytics. So I'm going to find this connector. And it's important to note that there are paid connectors and there are regular connectors. Oftentimes with our reports, we like to use paid connectors because the data limits are significantly higher. However, if this is just a simple little internal dashboard for your own use, free one might be completely fine. Save yourself the money, use free. In that case, I'm just going to click on this Google Analytics by Google. This is the default one. And I'm going to type in the account that I am looking for. Ooh, demo. And I'm just going to hit add. And really from there, I'm all set to start building my dashboard. Again, Looker Studio is a really complex topic. It's going to take some playing around. If you need any help, feel free to reach out. But from there, I can really start getting into adding my different types of charts, changing out my data in there. So that's a really quick overview of how you can get started with that. Now, I know we are coming up on time. Kate, is there any other topics that you think we should mention?
I haven't seen anything come in. I do have a question, just kind of an opinion from you. What do you find more helpful? Is it setting up the reports within GA4 or within like an external Looker Studio report?
They have different purposes. And when I am trying to dig in, that's when I really like reports within GA4. When I am trying to dig in, really understand what's going on. However, I think Looker Studio reports can be very helpful at presenting the data, showing what is going on without having to get into the weeds, to go over here, click here, save this. It's a really easy, simple way. You can make it look pretty. There's things that you can do in Looker Studio that you may not be able to do within the GA4 interface. And so I tend to find that I need both of them at different times, even throughout the same day.
Makes sense. And going back to the GA4 reports you were talking about, as you were walking through some of the reports, you can get rid of this or get rid of that. I don't know if you can do that within the demo account, but yeah. So my question, I guess, would be, if someone is looking to help clean up that sidebar or didn't even know they could, clean up that sidebar, could you give them some ideas of what they could throw in that sidebar instead? Or
so within this sidebar, I really recommend saving and getting rid of reports that you use. And so you can have a whole, this life cycle and this user, for example, those are called collections. You can set up a collection that is entirely devoted to your paid search, to reports there. And that might be different variations of your traffic acquisition report, and having those saved in order to dig down into Google and Bing. So you can have those right there for easy access, quick check-in, don't have to make those modifications. They're saved right there. Another one that I often is, again, for people who don't you have certain events, getting rid of purchase journey and checkout journey, that can be really helpful. Landing page, I really like to have different versions of the landing page report saved by different channels, just to make it easier when I'm digging into data. Again, I don't have to make that modification every single time then. And making that modification doesn't necessarily take me a long time, but it's nice to just save that time and just have it right there when it's something I use frequently.
Right. And I will note that here at Inflow, we are putting together a list of custom reports that we can really easily replicate across accounts. So like Julia mentioned, you could have a section that's all about your PPC report or a section that's all about your organic performance with different reports underneath in that collection. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out. We have that ability to make that work for your account. And like Julia was saying, just really personalize your dashboard so that you're not having to see all those zeros and things that don't really apply to you and having to sort through all of those extraneous reports that you don't need. So that is available to everyone who has, been on GA4 Hours or watched any of our stuff. I don't think there's anything else that has popped up from our registrants. You covered a lot of those questions as far as connecting it to Looker Studio or marking things as key events. any kind of last thoughts or recommendations as, we're getting into that crunch time and people really need to have their data ready to go? Any kind of recommendations you have for them to really make sure they're set?
Start now. Is if you need to do anything with your changes in GA4, do them as quickly as you can. That data is not retroactive. And if it's something that maybe your code freeze starts too soon or your dev queue is too busy and it's not going to happen, learn what you do have and do your best and make a plan to tackle it for the future.
Correct. Great. Thanks again, Julia, for all of your insight and expertise.
Thanks, everyone.
As I mentioned, this will be sent out as a recording, so keep an eye for that on in your inbox later today. And as mentioned many times in this call, if you have any questions or concerns or need help getting your stuff set before Q4 really starts rolling in, we're always happy to help and make that happen for you all. So thank you again for everybody for watching, and hope you have a great rest of your day.